When you hear the name Alfa Romeo, you don't just think about a car, you think about passion, design, and a little bit of unpredictability. And today, I'm face to face with the 2026 Alfa Romeo Giulia, the car that promises to be faster, smarter, and maybe even more Italian than ever. But here's the question, does it still have that soul-stirring magic? Or is this just another facelift hoping to keep up with BMW, Mercedes, and Audi? Over the next few minutes, I'll take you through everything from the way it looks, the way it drives, to those little quirks that make owning an Alfa either the best or worst decision you'll ever make. And trust me, there's a lot to talk about. So buckle up, because this is not a sponsored review, and I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. This is the 2026 Giulia Unfiltered. The Giulia has always been a head-turner, and the 2026 model keeps that tradition alive, but with a sharper, almost predatory look. The front fascia now has slimmer matrix LED headlights, and the grille feels like it's been stretched just enough to give the car a more aggressive stance. The rear is cleaner, with new taillights that blend into the curves, like they were carved by a sculptor who moonlights as a racer. But here's the thing, while BMW and Audi have been going for that corporate one-face-fits-all look, Alfa is still unapologetically different. This car screams individuality. You park this next to a 3 Series or C-Class, and the Giulia is the one that gets the double takes. It's not perfect. The paint options still feel limited, unless you go for expensive custom colors. And those beautiful wheels. They're just begging to be curbed on city streets. But that's the trade-off for a car that values form as much as function. The Giulia doesn't just want to get you from point A to B, it wants you to be seen along the way. Step inside and Alfa's done something a little unexpected. The 2026 Giulia's cabin finally feels like it can compete with the Germans in build quality. Soft touch materials are everywhere. The leather smells like it's straight from an Italian workshop. And the driving position is still one of the best in the business. The infotainment, it's a big improvement, faster, sharper graphics, and thankfully still has physical controls for climate. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are wireless now, and the audio system from Harman Kardon actually makes you want to turn off the exhaust just to listen. That said, rear seat space is, let's be honest, still not great. If you've got tall friends, they'll probably complain after a long drive. And while the trunk is big enough for weekend trips, it's not class leading. But here's the thing, this is a driver's car first. Every curve of the dashboard, every stitch in the seats feels angled toward the person holding the steering wheel. It's intimate, it's focused, and it's unapologetically about you. That's rare these days. All right, here's where things get spicy. The 2026 Giulia comes with updated powertrains, and depending on your market, you can still get the 2.0L Turbo 4 or the glorious Quadrifoglio with a twin-turbo V6, now pushing closer to 530 horsepower. And yes, it still sounds like an Alfa should, raspy, eager, and just a bit rebellious. The steering, still best in class. Quick, communicative, and light enough in the city, but razor sharp when you push it. The chassis tuning feels like Alfa spent as much time on mountain roads as they did on test tracks. You point it goes no hesitation. Of course, the Giulia still has its quirks. The ride can get a little jittery on rough roads, especially if you go for the bigger wheels, and while the updated 8-speed auto is smooth, it's not as lightning fast as a dual clutch when you're really going for it. But here's the thing, no? BMW 3 Series or Audi A4 gives you this level of connection. The Giulia makes you want to drive for no reason other than the joy of it. And in 2026, that's worth a lot. Our technology has been Alfa's Achilles heel in the past, but in 2026, they've stepped up. The Giulia now comes with Level 2 Plus driver assistance adaptive cruise, lane centering, traffic jam assist, all smooth and not overly intrusive. The digital gauge cluster is crisp, customizable, and actually easy to read even in direct sunlight. The infotainment software feels less experimental now it boots quickly, doesn't randomly freeze, and the voice control actually understands commands without you repeating yourself 5 times. Over-the-air updates mean it won't feel outdated in 2 years. On safety, you get all the acronyms AEB, BSM, RCTA, plus a new 360-degree camera that's sharp. enough to make parallel parking less of a gamble. The headlights adapt to corners beautifully at night, and the blind spot warnings are clear without being obnoxious. Still, some competitors offer more advanced semi-autonomous systems, and if that's your priority, you might look elsewhere. But for me, the Giulia strikes the right balance, enough tech to make life easier, but not so much that it feels like the car's driving you. This is still a machine that rewards being behind the wheel. So after a week with the 2026 Alfa Romeo Giulia, here's my takeaway. This is not the most practical sedan, it's not the cheapest, and it's definitely not the safest bet in terms of long-term reliability, but it is one of the few cars left that actually makes driving feel like an event. The way it looks, the way it responds, the way it makes you feel, that's something you can't measure on a spec sheet. If you want a car that's all logic and no emotion, go buy a Lexus or a Volvo. But if you're okay with a little risk, and you want every commute to feel like the best part of your day, the Giulia still delivers. So what do you think? Would you take the plunge on the new Alfa, or stick with the safe bets like BMW and Audi? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered car reviews, and share this with a fellow car enthusiast who needs a little Italian temptation in their life. Until next time, drive safe but have fun.